line. Bad bitches, every city in my tribe. Look behind. Booty dominate.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
I have
Nghĩa lắm.
I guess this one isn't as big of one of your topics. I think it's one of the least controversial. I mean, for some people, but I definitely think that the do men really want to protect women is it just depends on the man, and I think most men want to. I don't think it should be a whole category of men. Just men in general. I don't think it should be I think there should be a more specific word.
Do you think that protection is prescribed to masculinity?
I believe that we're talking about condoms and stuff, correct?
No, we're talking about offering
just
aid.
protection in general.
Yeah.
I think that it is for the most part. I don't think that most men agree with it, but I think it is.
Okay, so that's my question. Since that protection has been prescribed to masculinity, do men really want to protect women as this gender construct? That's my question.
I know it might be a personal experience, but most men in my life or in my families or friends' lives are very supportive. I just think there's a few that aren't, and I think women are the same way. I think some women are very.
So
I think it goes both ways.
When we look at violence, would you say that a majority of perpetrators are men?
Yes, but I think it's because most men don't speak. I think it goes both ways. If you're in a abusive relationship, or if someone's in an abusive relationship, I think most of the time both people it's a mutual thing in a relationship. But even then, men can be aggressive and women can too. It goes both ways.
Well, but that's not what we see in society, which is why I asked you, when it comes to violence, are mainly the perpetrators men? And not even mainly, but the overwhelming majority. If we look at people who rape other people, if we look at people who unalive other people, are they the majority men?
Statistically.
Yes.
But
okay.
I don't
So
think that
this
women
is,
come
well,
forward
let me,
with that.
what?
I don't think that even if a man was to get abused or sexually assaulted or unalived, unless it's proven, I don't think that women get held accountable for what they do to men, because men don't come forward and express themselves because they're held to a standard where they need to be tougher and more masculine. I don't think they have what it takes.
Sure. I think there are instances where men do underreport due to the constructs of gender within our society. I would agree with that. But women also underreport due to the constructs within our society based on gender. Women typically don't report because they are blamed and receive hate for accusing a man of violence.
Or physically threatened.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I just, the reason that I'm asking you this is because it's interesting to me how we can acknowledge that the overwhelming majority of people who commit violence towards other people are men. And yet men have prescribed themselves with this social duty of protection. And so I ask, why do men kind of create the problem and then pat themselves on the back for solving it? And when I ask, why do men have a higher predilection for violence, I hear crickets. So if men really wanted to protect women, I feel they would have a little bit more insight and introspection to how male violence occurs. And I don't see that.
Yeah,
and that they would actually speak out against violence caused by men.
I do think that the like protective like beliefs and the like morals of, or not morals, but like the belief that men need to protect women comes from, like, it's very old school, so it just has been passed down from when men actually cared more and when men were more gentle with women, and just it was just
Men are more
completely different.
gentle with women than they have ever been. Historically, men have been very violent towards women.
And it goes both ways.
It really doesn't. Like, if we look at historically, men typically married girls like small children, and they even died shortly after being married because of how hard men would grape them. They would break their pelvises, break their bones. Women are typically, and men do experience both grape, but how we experience it is different based on our gender. To say that when it comes to gender-based violence, that men experience the same violence that women do in reverse, it is so categorically false.
It might not be as much, but it's very, I think it is very close. It's very
It's not.
statistically.
Women, no, in general, if a man is unalived, it is from another man, not a woman.
But that's not a fact, because
It's a fact.
there are women who unalive men, and there are women who could unalive their whole family or unalive other people.
That is true. I'm not saying that there aren't women who are violent. We're talking about generalizations. 99% of rapists are men. 90% of all violence, whether that is unaliving or violence through force, are men.
Okay, but the 99% of rapists being men, there are also plenty of men who get sexually assaulted as children, as
Right.
adults that don't come
And
forward. So the
typically,
statistic is staggered
wait, but
because
that doesn't change the perpetrators. We're talking about perpetrators. Just because there are other men there are men and boys that don't come forward, doesn't change that 99% of rapists are men.
the statistic could change based on the facts that are given by the men that were sexually assaulted. Because we can't just assume that it's going to be men, because a mother or an aunt or a grandmother could, or a mother of a friend could easily sexually assault.
So what do you think the more accurate number is?
I would still say, obviously men is still higher, but I think it would probably be around like 65.
Okay. And where did you get this from?
Just if you like knowing people that have, knowing men that have been sexually assaulted, or friends, or there's a lot more men than that you than people think that go through that kind of stuff, and they just don't come forward about it.
Well, I'm asking you where you get this from. Is this just your anecdotal experience?
It's
Or have you actually researched this?
no, but if it's not, it couldn't be in research because no men come forward about things like that
Men do come forward about things like
well,
this. It's just
rare,
less likely. The same with
but
women.
yes, less
And
likely.
I can give you statistics on underreporting as well. Like, we do have statistics on underreporting as too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get these statistics by like anonymized surveys or like estimates based off like anecdotal, like coagulated or collated anecdotal experiences, or like friends reporting who they know and then comparing that to the real rate. Like we have longitudinal and comparative data on this, which supports the idea that the vast majority of perpetrators are men. It's not like we don't have the data. Like we do. It's just that data, that doesn't always match what the police have. Because yeah, reporting to the police is drastically different than telling your friends, and then your friends saying, "Oh, I know like 10 women that were SA'd," or something like that.
Yeah.
I really do feel like you're like propagating rape myths. Like you have
And what
rape
is
myth acceptance.
rape acceptance?
Rape myth acceptance, which is stereotypes and predispositions that justify certain things.
Which explain more, like deeper into detail, what you're trying
That
to
you're
say.
making false statements that uphold rape culture.
I definitely
That
don't
the
think
reason that
that.
men are characterized as rapists is because male victims don't come forward. That's not true.
Well, I'm not justifying it whatsoever for the men. It's wrong either way. I'm just saying that it's just as wrong if a male. I'm just saying I don't think the statistic is accurate of 99% because I think a statistic of men coming forward is way less than a woman coming forward.
But
Wait, but
you
that's a
don't have
known
anything to
value.
point to.
Also, we
You're
know
just
the value
telling your
of not of them
feelings.
not coming forward, right? Like you realize there's more data than just like official reporting, right? Like there are official estimates to the rate of underreporting, and that's where we get the 99%. They take that into account. So like we run off more than just vibes when we're making these numbers.
Yeah. I don't think it's something that I would typically agree with, but
What do you mean typically agree with?
like I think things like that need to be talked about as a double standard. Like they need to be held like both accountable at the same time in an argument.
I don't know how we aren't doing that. We're talking about experience when it comes to violence. And I've even told you that when men at higher rates are unalived than women are. But women are unalived based on their gender. So how men and women are unalived are very different. The only thing I'm talking about is the main person, overwhelming vast majority to perpetrate that is men.
But isn't the whole argument, do men really want to protect women, not just people
Right.
in general?
And that's the basis of my arguments, because if our men are the vast majority of violent perpetrators, if they really want to protect women, maybe they should deconstruct how they've constructed their gender to be more prone to commit violence, because that's what would really protect us. We don't need men to be gun wielding ninja bodyguards. We need men to stop hurting us.
Maybe it's just rare for me personally that I have supportive humans in my life.
Okay. Anything else?
What about the trans women or women?
What about it?
Like, are you saying as in like they have already had a transformation surgery, or they just claim to be a woman and they still have male body parts?
Trans and trans women does not mean transformation.
I understand that, but I'm asking you what you
I
mean
don't
by
know
it
if you
because
do, because if you really do understand these topics, you don't use words like transformation.
but that's the surgery that makes you, or I wouldn't even say that. That's the surgery that convinces people that or makes them feel better about themselves as they are trying to transform into another gender.
Again, it's not transform.
Yeah, that's not
Like
the name of
the
the
fact that you use
surgery.
that language tells me how little you understand about this subject. It's surgery to affirm your gender. It's not a transformation thing. When I talk
Affirm.
about woman as a construct, what we actually view a woman to be within society, it's not just her biology and her body. I think that's what the patriarchy, and I mean, if we're gonna go fully into it, like what colonialism has constructed,
Yes,
because
but it's
sex,
science
it's not science, because science doesn't even agree that trans women aren't women.
because
Um,
they I don't think that
Science.
trans women are women.
I know you don't. And it's probably because you're ignorant, which is fine. If you are open-minded, then we can actually have this discussion. But I don't really think you can have this discussion from like an intellectual position.
They can't be put on the
Especially-
same basis. Being born, I feel like that's a very people don't just get to pick and choose what they are.
Maybe
let's just talk about
we
the
actually
science.
wait. I'm sorry, 1 second.
Yeah.
Maybe
You're
I
good.
can break this down to like a kindergarten analogy for you to understand. We all drink out of a cup. And what you have been told is that all cups hold coffee. Now, if there's something else in this cup, like tea or milk or juice, the only person that can tell you what's inside the cup is the person who's drinking it. So even though a trans person, you see them as their body, you can't tell them what's inside. And so when it comes to the relationship they have with their body, when it comes to the experience they have within society, when it comes to their behavior, their psychology, that's something that is not reflected in your body. Or makeup brushes, thank you.
That's a
when I'm
mental
talking
state.
about
That's like a mental illness.
oh my God,
That's like you
why
can't
are you
convince yourself.
laughing? Why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing. It's my friends in the background. It's a mental state. It's not you aren't a woman unless you have a women genitals. You're not a woman unless you're born with women genitals. It's just
Are you so if we're going to talk about, essentially you're going to say a woman is female. If we're going to talk about what a female is, for you to strictly base it on the aspect of genitals, you are going to exclude people that you would classify as women. And you are probably going to include people that you would not classify as women as well. I think this is a very bad way to classify people.
so pronouns, for example, connect female to woman if you're saying there's a difference between female and woman.
In what
There's a
world do
connection.
pronouns connect those two? Wait, in what world do pronouns connect those two? That's
Because you call a
arbitrary.
female, because you call female she, her, you call a woman she, her, it's the same exact
But
thing.
that's fascinating because that's not even really true. We call a ship she, her as well. Like what? What are you talking about? We have feminine and masculine pronouns, right, for things that aren't just female or male, right? When you say, "Oh, I'm going off on a ship," they say, "Oh, bye." Like they use a her pronoun. We have feminine and masculine terms, right, and feminine and masculine pronouns for non-sexed things. It's entirely arbitrary to suggest that the feminine and masculine gender within like grammar connects at all to sex, right?
What
All
shit
of
have you
French,
ever called
all
her?
of German would disagree with you, and we
People
still have
they name their boats women names. Men call their cars women. Like, what are you talking about? Is this her first voyage? I refer to my purse as a girl.
Yup.
Because men, this is like so. There's plenty of boats and ships or whatever the hell you're talking about named something out, like named male names.
Right.
But,
So
like,
you
the proper
acknowledge
pronoun for
that
a
we're
ship is
giving
her.
non-human things male and female pronouns.
That's like saying,
Taylor, have you ever heard the saying steady as she goes? No, you haven't heard of that?
what is the point of that? There's also sayings.
It's in reference to ships.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know the argument was completely about ships.
We're talking about gendering ships.
We are.
And
but
gender pronouns, yeah.
yes,
And
pronouns.
gender pronouns having nothing to do with sex.
How are you guys
Because
going to tell
ships
me?
don't have sex.
How are you going to tell me?
Rose did.
How many times are you going to tell me that she and her, that you do not say to a female that you refer to a female as a woman?
Are ships female?
No.
Great. Then we
I
refer to
feel
those
you.
as she, her too. So no, your premise does not stand.
It does, because a female and a woman are the same thing.
Pronouns just don't prove.
Oh,
Sorry, you go. My bad.
If there were supposed to be these standards in the world and these confusions in people's minds, God would have sent down a third one named
Oh my God, don't
some
even.
gender neutral name that had
hold on.
nothing on them, and they got to choose, but that did not happen.
What are you
Wait a minute.
talking about?
Hold on. How many genders are there within
2,
the Tanakh?
clearly.
There's 6. Actually, there's 8, but there's 6 named. So when you're
There's-
talking about God, especially
There's 6
within
genders.
yes,
Have you
Yeah,
read
did
the
you hear her
Bible?
with
yes, I've read the Bible. Jesus even talks
And
about
Jesus
it.
said there's 6 genders.
Jesus said, "Truly I say unto thee, some of you were born eunuchs, and some of you became eunuchs later." And in reference to that, he was talking about a transformation of like gender, because eunuchs are people who can't have babies, and they are oftentimes people who are either castrated or become other sexes. So you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to
The whole argument of the Bible, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. It's not, there's
And-
no,
Okay. That means
We're
absolutely
talking
nothing.
snake.
So what you're telling
have
me,
to
so
say
what you're
about that?
telling me is, hold on, real quick. So what you're telling me is that Jesus was wrong. That's what you're telling me?
Jesus, the whole point of that verse or
Yes or no?
the
Was Jesus
scripture
wrong?
is not, you're
Was
just,
Jesus
that's
wrong?
what people
Yes
do.
or no?
No, but the point
Okay,
that
so
you're
then you're wrong.
making is
You don't
that
even.
you're
What
trying to take what Jesus is saying and
what Bible
justify your
verse?
own
What Bible
mental
verse?
issues.
What Bible verse and reference am I referencing? What Bible verse and book am I
You just
referencing?
looked this up right now.
No,
You
I
just
didn't.
looked
I
that up.
know
You
the
just pulled
Bible
that
like
out
the
of your
back of my
ass.
hand. I know the Bible like the back of my hand. What Bible verse and book am I referencing? Since you know that I'm taking it out of context.
Probably a newly written one that people try to justify their mental
you don't
illnesses
know.
and their different.
Wait, you don't know? Aw,
I
she
don't
better
know.
not have ruined this whole live stream for me by getting. Yeah, she was removed.
Damn.
But that's fine timing anyway, because I do have to go. But thank you, Sean. Thank you, Will. Base, appreciate you.
I'm so fucking cute, bitch.